I'm 26 years old and I've never been in a relationship before. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Priya and this is episode 2 of my journal entry slash video diary episodes. Today I'm feeling very cozy. I'm in my sweatshirt and wearing a blanket over me. Totally not because I'm in my PJs or anything. That's totally not the reason why. But as you've seen from the intro, today I wanted to talk about how I have never been in a relationship before in the 26 years of my life. I've never had a long-term partner or dated seriously before. And basically, I wanted to make this video for anyone else out there who's in the same boat and to tell you why it's actually okay and why I think it can be beneficial if you've never been in a relationship before. Because that means that we weren't willing to settle, which I think is always a good thing. I think it's hard, especially as someone who's in their mid to late 20s, who's out there open to a relationship, but not actively trying to find one just for the sake of being in one, because there's so much pressure that you get from your family, your quote unquote friends, if they might be pressuring you. There's a lot of societal expectation to be in a relationship by this stage of your life, which I think is pretty unfair, especially in this day and age when things can be really superficial. It's harder to connect with people and it's harder to find people who have your same values or morals that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Especially if you're someone who doesn't want to just date around and who only is willing to settle for someone who you could see yourself having a serious relationship or spending the rest of your life with. I wrote some notes down once more in my trusty little notebook because I had a lot to say and I had a lot of thoughts that I tend to forget pretty easily. So let me find those real quick. There's a lot of different various factors that aid in this pressure. Personally, growing up in a South Asian immigrant household, I think this pressure to find someone and settle down and get married is tenfold. When I think about it, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if any of you out there relate, but when you're growing up, you're told not to focus on men or not to focus on dating anyone because it's just a distraction. And for me, my parents were like, don't date, don't even think about men romantically until you are done with college and you have a good degree and a good education behind you and you have a good job and you're settled down. And then once you hit 21, all of a sudden, everything changes. They're like, where's your man? Why are you not getting married? Why are you struggling so hard to find someone? And I'm like, you told us not to look, not to be in a relationship, not to date anyone. You can't all of a sudden expect us to find the one. We weren't allowed to date. So I feel like that's a really unfair statement. And it's not easy. It's not just your parents, especially if you're a person of color, who are giving this pressure to you. A lot of times, if you're from a first gen immigrant household, your grandparents, your cousins, everyone is looking at you to get married because it fulfills their satisfaction and their need for some enjoyment in their lives, I think, because that's just how it was back in the day. And I can't even totally blame them because that's the way they grew up. To them, if as a woman you're not able to find a man and settle down, it'll be hard to live your life. But as a 26-year-old who has probably the most freedom out of any of the women in her lineage, for the first time, I am the first one who's able to make my own decisions, who's able to gain my own financial freedom, live the life I want, travel the world, do all these things. I think it's hard for others to realize that and accept that they weren't given the same freedoms, and I totally understand that. But that's also the reason why we shouldn't be pressured into doing things that we don't want to do because, as I said, I'm going to use my freedom the fullest. I'm going to live my life for all the women before me who aren't able to do that because they didn't have the choice. They didn't have the freedom to choose. They were either forced to get married or had to get married because they weren't financially able to get a good education and get a good job and earn money for themselves. They never got a chance to truly learn who they are and express themselves fully. They had a lot of societal and cultural restrictions placed upon them, and that's something I don't have to deal with. And many of us out there, for the first time in generations, don't have to deal with. So I think that's part of the reason why I personally do not think it's right or it's okay for me to settle, especially when I'm feeling so fulfilled in my life and I have personal goals that I want to achieve. And in that vein, because For the first time in history, a lot of us women don't have the need to rely on men for our financial security or well being. A lot of people aren't choosing to stay in unsatisfactory or dysfunctional relationships anymore. They're choosing to leave, they're choosing to get divorces, they're choosing to break up with people who aren't right for them and who aren't treating them right. And on top of that, many of us feel fulfilled in our platonic relationships, especially our female friendships. There's a saying that I saw online that the exceptional man is just an average woman, and honestly, I feel like that's so true. All of my female friends treat me so well, more than anyone who I've ever gone on a date with has treated me. They set the standard so high, truly, and I'm so glad that that's something that we as a society are collectively talking about more, is that love doesn't just have to come from romantic relationships. It can come in many forms, whether that's parental love, whether that's sibling love, whether that's friendship love. And I personally think that your friendship love, your platonic relationships are on par or even more important than your romantic relationships can be. Because I think growing up, we see in these movies and in the way people talk about having a relationship, it's just so glorified. It's an ideal that, especially as women, we have to achieve. The best kind of relationship and love is to get that validation from a man. But now we're realizing that's not necessarily true. Our female friendships show up. They show up and show out in ways that many men aren't even able to fulfill for us, especially emotionally. We're able to be so vulnerable. We're able to feel a sense of fulfillment and feel cherished and loved from our platonic female relationships that we don't need anymore to search for that from romance. We're not reliant on romantic relationships anymore, and I think that's a beautiful thing because we can feel fulfilled in many ways. We can get love in many forms. It doesn't have to be romance purely. And that's why I believe there's many ways to use this capacity for love that we have as humans, whether that's with our friends, whether that's through community, building those relationships and lessening this need for romance in our lives, that we're able to fulfill in other ways. Another big realization I've had recently is that a lot of the things that I was looking for in a partner are things that I wish I was or had myself. And so I resolved to become the ideal version of me. What I mean is, a lot of the times, these requirements or these things that we're looking for in a partner, whether that be someone who has a lot of money and is financially secure, or someone who's healthy and has a strong career, all these things are actually things that I wanted to be myself, but I'm just projecting that onto someone else. For the longest time, I would be like, oh, I want to marry a rich man so I never have to worry about money again and I could live securely and lavishly. And then I was like, hold up, why can't I just become the rich man myself? I don't need a man to pay for my life. Why don't I achieve that financial freedom myself? And the moment I resolve to do that and I place that confidence in myself that, oh, this is possible and this will be my reality, truly everything shifted for me in my mind. Like my goals from there on out bettered me and changed me as a person. I started focusing on this idea that I don't need a rich partner, I will become the rich one. And I applied that to other things too. And that mindset shift is really powerful because I started spending time on myself and learning what I cared about to ensure that I wasn't trying to find a partner to fill a hole in me, to fill this emptiness in me that I was feeling. And I want you guys out there to start thinking this way too. Say to yourself, I'm going to be whole and happy in myself and in my relationships in my life. So this future person or partner will have to add to my life instead of taking away from it. This future person that I'm going to have a romantic relationship with is going to be after I become whole as a person. I don't want to have someone just to fill a part of me or to be my better or other half. I don't believe in that. I think two wholes come together. I don't think two halves make a whole. Okay, guys, I have moved locations because there was a really loud noise outside earlier. I think there was some trucks that were cutting down the tree in my neighbor's yard and it was making the loudest noise ever. So I've moved locations, but now there's a lot less natural light. So bear with me if things don't look as clear anymore. But I just wanted to end this video with a few more thoughts. First being dating app culture. And I wanted to just recognize how hard it is, especially as a young person or any age, honestly, to get yourself out there and go on these apps because, first of all, they're so superficial. It's so easy to get nitpicky with people's profiles because you're not able to truly discern what they're like. And it's easy to just keep swiping left. Second of all, it's hard to meet people in real life now. It's hard to find those communities or those situations where you're able to meet organically like it used to in the past. So we feel this need to go on these dating apps, but then it becomes this toxic cycle of you're swiping, you start talking to people, you go on a few dates, none of them work out, you get jaded, and then you're like, you know what? I'm going to take a break from the dating apps for a while. I'm just going to forget about it. And then a few weeks go by, and then you start feeling called back towards these apps where you're like, oh, maybe I should just try it again. It's a numbers game. Let me just go back on there. And then you get frustrated again. It's this toxic cycle of up and down emotionally. And I just want to recognize that that's really hard. And another thing that I feel like is a little bit cruel is a lot of the good profiles, meaning the profiles that you would genuinely feel more attracted to, are hidden behind a paywall because that is how these dating apps operate. That is their business model. So if anyone else is out there feeling like something is wrong with them because they're not able to connect with anybody, no matter how many dates they've been on, I want to tell you that it's really not your fault. And also, meeting someone through these apps is not natural. It's not like making a genuine connection as if you're becoming friends first and then etc. So I truly believe in the energy that you put out into the world will attract the right people. Meaning, like, energy, this vibrational frequency, whatever you want to call it, people can feel how you feel about yourself. So if you're working towards your higher self, this version of you that is more content with their lives, is feeling more confident and secure in themselves, and is fulfilling the goals that you want to achieve, I feel like you're going to attract the right people who see this energy in you, whether that be platonic or romantic. I truly believe that things will happen in its own time as you become a more fulfilled and self actualized version of yourself. So, if there's anyone out there who is feeling this fear or this pressure from this stigma or this idea that you have to be in a romantic relationship and you're some kind of failure because you aren't, I want to tell you right now that that's not true. Things will happen when they're meant to happen. I truly believe that, especially if when I look back in how things have played out in my life, there were times when I felt like everything's lost and I'm not gonna go up from here. And then an opportunity comes in and it takes time, but I promise you, if you focus on yourself and becoming a better person, then you will achieve whatever you want to achieve. Don't be scared, don't be frightened. I believe truly that you're exactly where you need to be. So, with that said, there is one final phrase that I want to leave you guys with, and that is, I love myself too much to settle for less than I deserve. I hope this resonated with you. I would love to hear your thoughts if you feel different or if you have anything you want to add. Have a lovely rest of your day and rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one.